he must go.
La corrida
Right?
escondida.
Wandering through Spain to all the ganaderia to seek and search and find his beloved by moonlight. Hey! I'm with the toreros' ancient ways, but possessed by just one thought. To kill, kill, or be killed. And familiar with the language of the book, and possessed by just one thought. To kill or be killed.
Wow, heavy.
El Cordobo.
El Cordobo, to
See.
kill or be killed. Is that something you heard and liked?
No, I read the book of his life and then I wrote this.
Wow.
He was such a. But the ganaderias are throughout Spain. See, Cordobo. One of the reasons I wanted to write a song about him was we all went to the bullfight when we weren't. We went to one in Spain,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't. It was in Bayona. It was not in Madrid. But we were told. I mean, it was a huge arena, right? But I was told about El Cordobo. Everyone was sad. These German guys brought us there that we were dating, right? They said El Cordobo had broken every rule. The toreros, you see, there's a society in Spain that regulates the rules for the matadors. And one of the reasons I got into this was my last guitar coach was from Madrid. And I had only 4 lessons with him, and 2 of them were teaching me how to do, they're called claves, clapping correctly. To make it an instrument, Las claves. You make a cup.
As opposed to the castanets.
Right, you're making a sound for the flamenco guitarist, right. And the other thing was, he spent and I paid him like $85 or less, 40 minutes, I think. I remember I was always writing my last check for him. One whole lesson he brought us into the kitchen. He got the broom. He said, I'm going to teach you how every flamenco guitarist first learns. And he spent, like that whole lesson, I had to sweep through him making the ears of the bull. He said, you have to get the feeling of the matador and the torero's life.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
To get that feeling of the passion that rises in people. So, El Cordobo, he wouldn't do the ponytail when he went into the ring, the little ponytail. I mean, he wouldn't do a lot of the stuff. He would wear the bolero, all right?
And the suit of
And he would wear the suit. But his hair was just a big, long ponytail down his back. And when it came to all the rules of the passes, it was almost like samurai rules of how you handle the sword of it. He was just like dance up. He would break all the rules. He'd get way too close.
A trickster, subversive.
No bull could survive El Cordobo. Every time he went into the ring, the bull was gone. The people went nuts. That's why a cigar was named after him. El Cordobo.
Oh, yeah?
You never
I
heard
don't
of
know
that,
cigars, yeah.
But but what I loved about him was that he made more money than any bullfighter in history made. And when he retired, because they started putting him with little bulls. I mean, not big,
Yeah,
mighty frozen.
Yeah.
He retired. During his career, he had bought up the ganaderias all over Spain, many of them, and joined them together, took the boundaries down,
Oh.
and let the homeless poor people of Spain, particularly Spanish, people that had survived through the Republican Revolution, against Franco, but anyway, they were all welcome. The way
To
Mr.
train
Johnson
as
did was the
toreadors?
best. No, to come live on his property and
Oh.
just have a good old age.
Oh, okay.
It's like, so he was, you see, this is another reason why many people in Texas, they don't love Mr. Johnson for what he did as our president. He has a terrible reputation around here as a politician.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, the stories.
Too
When
liberal?
I was getting, well, it was just the deals that he was cutting, he was ID'd as corrupt, okay? That, that's not the Texas way.
Huh.
But anyway.
Yeah, he was a good old boy, but then he became a Washington guy and whatever.
Yeah, and he started cutting a lot of deals that, like,
And he didn't run for a second time, but we needed him to run. We needed him to win.
He did it, yeah.
He bailed out.
He bailed out.
He let Kennedy down.
Yeah.
Not that Kennedy was necessarily his boy, but.
No, I mean, but anyway, when he retired, he wrote a book, first of all, and you gotta read it if you've never read it. He wrote a book about why and how he made the decisions he did and then he stated that he had nightmares throughout those years and after he left that he had harmed irrevocably our military.
Oh, yeah, well.
And therefore he made a statement on his book. I've bought a huge spread outside of Fredericksburg, Texas. Any vet that needs a place to live is welcome on my property.
Well, I
And
never
during
heard
the
that,
years,
yeah.
though, you'd have to be,
That's good.
this is like an inside local thing. Because people love to tell you these stories.
But he never admitted he didn't feel guilty about JFK.
Oh,
he
the
didn't
only
say-
person that mentioned JFK was Jackie O to me.
Yeah.
I've never had anyone.
Oh, what Jackie O said?
Matter of fact, I had a guy that worked for, Lockheed Martin.
Oh, yeah.
He was one of their engineers during the 50s and then into the 60s. And he had met Kennedy when he came to NASA. And when he and his wife started the birth, then she says, you're probably wondering why I wanted to meet you. But I could tell you outside over a joint, I don't want to.
Well, you can now listen.
Okay.
You can talk to
So
me.
she
You can
says-
pretend he's,
I've heard the story.
Yeah.
pretend he's not there.
He's heard it before.
All right.
Okay, so she says to me, Kerry, she says, you and I are very alike.
Right.
And I sat there, I sat back and I was like, I'm afraid I don't get it.
Yeah.
You and I are not alike. She says, oh, you'd be surprised. She said, you've fallen among wolves, Kerry. And I just sat there. And I knew I'd been having a very hard time with the family, except all the old folks loved me. The middle ones, my mother-in-law,
Well, you were
my
ahead of your time.
father-in-law. But anyway, so she says, situation, I was like, there's all these people running around trying to find out who killed John Kennedy. And here she is telling me why. So then she says, and I realized she didn't feel in danger anymore, you see. Because then she goes on to say, she says, many people thought I married Mr. Onassis so I could have a lot of money for clothes. Kerry, I have my own money. I needed someone that had a private army.
Wow.
My children's lives and mine we were very vulnerable for many
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
She said, now the other thing she said before we shifted back to me, she says, can you imagine how difficult it was for me to stand there on Airport 1,
Yeah.
bloodied from my husband's blood,
Yeah.
while Mr. Johnson was sworn in?
Yeah.
Now, it was implicit in her statement, I thought, that there was some skullduggery. Because then she goes on to say, and then I was invited back to the White House with them. So I could, and she didn't go like this, but I'm
Right.
going, recover.
Right.
She goes, she looks at
Right.
going on. And I was a witness. I saw the whole thing. She says, with Lady Bird, who was showing all kinds of sympathy, wanted to chat. So she
Right.
says, she's like, so I want you to be aware that people are not what they seem, and you've moved yourself into a class and a group of people that don't operate like the people you may have known in your life.
One of my favorite theories is that on that day they said JFK was going to talk about UFOs and aliens.
Yes, he was. That was his next stop.
Yeah, that's one of
And
the
he had
best.
especially had
That's one of the
the
best.
flag flown in from the White House
Yeah.
that was flying when the UFOs went over
Oh, yeah.
in '52 when I
Famous
was
photos, 52.
You
You
see?
seen those photos?
Yeah, it's so.
A bunch of big UFOs over the Capitol. 52.
So now-
In DC,
And it was on the front page of the papers. It was not,
Wow. Wow.
I'm going to sing another original. This is called Down in Florida. All
yeah.
right.
Nice, nice.
Because you lived in Florida.
Down in Florida, out on the highway. Down in Florida, they told me they'd been there for all these long hard years. How they loved my chestnut hair, and they'd seen me, heard me, seen me at the fair. They'd seen me in Mobile, they'd seen me in New Orleans, they saw me in Georgia at an old beer and wine canteen. And out on the highway, do I remember Route 64? And they told me your life ain't over yet. No, 'cause we're guarding you, we're watching you, and we love your chestnut head. And we saw you, heard you, saw you at the fair.
Wow. Good one. Good
I
one.
like that one. See, I heard Sol Griffith's story. It was a Sicilian cancer nurse from New York City
Yeah.
that was dying of cancer. He was like 50, and I had to run him from Naples to Tampa. It was like a good long run.
A male nurse. Yeah.
And I just signed regs to not let anyone smoke in my cab. They were big on that in Florida that year. And he was fine on the way up there, although on the way up there is when he had his clairvoyant experience. I was driving an old Lincoln and I had all the windows open. It was so hot. It was July in Florida. He got in the car and kind of collapsed on the back seat with his arms spread out. I looked in the tank and the guy was like, I was going to pull over and I was like, you know, the car, the heat, he may need a nap before we get there. And I could hear him breathing right, so I kept driving. All of a sudden I hear, he goes, white roses everywhere. Can't you see them? And I kind of look up and he goes, can't you smell them? And then he closed his eyes again. And he says, oh, he's here with us. He's here, he wants to talk to you. He says, I don't know if I should go on, George, but it was lovely how then the yellow roses came.
Yeah.
Right, well, I like how at the end he kind of snapped out of it and said, what happened? I just had a clairvoyant episode. He didn't know
Yeah.
anything.
He
That's
said,
pretty cool.
because you see, I pulled up
That's a
when
real
he came
medium.
out of his cancer treatment. I don't know if you've ever had a friend or gone with them when they have it. Really wipes the person out, that first. So he comes out and he's got his, cigarettes in his pocket here, right? And he goes towards the car and he's like, I could tell he wants a cigarette. I say, look, I said, I know there's a tree up the road. We're gonna, So we hit the highway and I pull up under this big, huge tree and I get out and I'm like, I'll smoke with you. He gives me one, he goes to light it and the guy jumps back, right? He like literally jumps back from me. And I thought, oh, maybe he's wiggy from the... But then we smoked, got back in the car and he had this experience. another
Wow.
experience. Like this,
Yeah.
where he's telling me all
Did he
this.
say he jumped back from you because you were shining light or something?
Yes, that's what I was going to tell George. So when we're outside the house and I go to drop him off, he looks at me like he's come out of a daze and he goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Oh yeah." He says, "Do anything that meant anything to you?" I said, "I couldn't believe it. It was a wonderful experience." I said, "I feel better," because he actually told me, and I won't go into detail, but some of my friends, their mothers had had strokes.
Uh-huh.
He knew a lot.
He said,
He knew a lot.
her shell is here. She's already in heaven. Tell her not to worry. Her father will be there. I mean, it was very.
Yeah.
And about Jake, there was stuff going on. Don't worry about your son. He's already. And you remember this and that. He got through. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, this guy knows everything. And then he would be like this. So we're at the door, and I said, oh yes, you told me stuff. I said to myself, how could you know this about me? I said, it must have come from my guardian angels. Like they were telling me, they were my angels.
Right.
He says, I'll tell you what. He said, as a kid in Sicily, I would have these episodes. I would first get a blinding headache, then I'd pass out. And when I come to, everyone would be upset with me. I had told them things they didn't want anyone else to know.
Yeah.
And my mother and grandmother told me I had to suppress these, that these were clairvoyant episodes that could only bring harm.
Wow.
And he said, so I learned to suppress them, instead would have a terrible headache, a migraine for days. But it was
Yeah.
important, That's what he said to me. So he said, but when I lit your cigarette, he said, all this white light poured out of you. I was like, I remembered how and he said, so I knew
Wow.
you were going to be okay. I could let myself, and I could feel it coming on.
Uh-huh.
So, that was a real barrier. I told Mom about that, and I really do think, because, you see, when I told Mom, it was when she was very upset about dying. She wasn't like that sick then, but she and Dad had these times where they were worried about all of us, really,
Yeah.
and about what was beyond. So I said, Mom, I know you don't like to talk or think about this stuff that's like not too realistic, but I said, this guy, this nurse that I took for a ride, and I had to give a long run to, I said, he told me something that he said, your dad said that nobody else knew. She goes, what's that? And I said, well, that he was so pleased that I didn't have a hunchback, and that he had told you to do everything you could for me, so I wouldn't have a hunchback anyway. And that was one of the first things this MG says. He goes, that lovely straight back. I was so worried to have a
So,
hunchback.
is that the
And I say that to Mommy, and she goes, no one knew that but me and my father. I never mentioned that to you. And I was like, well, and then I wanted to go on to tell you, Mom, there's another world, and you're going to get to be in it when you're not in this body anymore.
Yeah.
I believe there is a heaven, and you'll get to be in it. And maybe you'll have a little stop in limbo. We all may. And Mommy, at that point, we're like on talking more about stuff.
Yeah, yeah, good.
But
That's
So
funny,
in
what-
this song, when you referenced the grandpa, it was the Canadian grandpa?
And my granddad, yeah.
Yeah, that's Chris'
Adam,
granddad,
right.
who was
Michael Griffin.
A young
With,
man, was one of the guys.
And you see what the nurse says, he says his initials are MG, and he has a widow's peak. He says he has a widow's peak and dimples. And Mom's big thing was always, you got my father's dimples. And she mentioned his widow's peak. Because, we didn't have that many pictures of him or anything.
No. Yeah,
But
we don't know too much of him other than as a young man. He, when they lived in Sandon, he and his brothers, I think, did some like lumberjacking.
Oh,
in
yeah, and
Hampshire.
he spent his life then in Montreal, which
Yeah.
was when he married Mary Ann, who they call Lily, right?
Right.
And she's a school teacher and she wants to branch out, or
Yeah.
they're gonna have a family and she
Yeah.
wants to be in
Go
a,
to the big city.
he had to work in that big butcher, a
Yeah.
meat plant. He
Yeah.
was a butcher
Yeah.
instead of a lumberman, He was still swinging his axe,
Well, yeah, who knows what job he had there, but yeah.
but a
It must have
very,
been nice.
So does Griff know that our Uncle Jackie and our Auntie Mary and Margaret, who were really our second cousins once removed, I think.
Right, yeah.
see. But called them Uncle Jackie and Auntie Margaret. That they wrote, Jackie built a beautiful postal chest that was about Well, it was taller than Dad's. It was about 6.5 feet tall, with a lot of slim, long drawers. I was introduced to this when I went up for his funeral. Did you go up to his funeral in Shannon? Maybe you weren't looking around like that in that little living room where the cat girls and I were singing. Anyway, Nancy who was really, she took care of Jackie during his last days. She starts opening the drawer. She goes, "Did you realize that Uncle Jackie and Auntie Margaret wrote poetry and literature all their lives? It's all in these drawers."
Huh.
And they know, Auntie Margaret, throughout her life, took classes at an extension community college at
Oh.
McGill.
Yeah.
She was so loved literature.
McGill.
Rose.
Good college, McGill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she got her degree there.
But
And
they lived together their whole lives,
their
right?
whole lives.
And they never.
Like the Shakers or something.
Yeah,
You know?
you never know
Was
about any
never-
romantic entanglements or.
No, I don't think so.
No.
And you know why, George? They had a property that was over 1,000 acres when
Yeah.
Jackie was a little boy, before
Uh-huh.
his father got tuberculosis and died. His father died when he was 14. And he had those 3 sisters, Rose and Anne and
Yeah.
Margaret.
Uh-huh.
And he pretty much went to the priest and said, "I can't," the farm, they had lost, but partly what Jackie thought killed his dad. Jackie and I had a couple of conversations with me as an adult, because I went up there with Jake, because I wanted Jake to know when Jake was
Yeah.
11 and I got a little windfall. But anyway, he said to me, he wanted me to realize that there had been a huge Griffin property, but that the French army
Yeah.
decided to,
Canadian Army
taking
it
of the
over.
land. But the both of them, these whispery, almost Irish little tinge to that. He would tell the story and Margaret would be going, "The Troubles." See, in Ireland, the Troubles are the IRA,
Right,
Belfast, the
right,
bombs.
Right.
Here it was taking their land.
Yeah.
But he
yeah.
got left with about 180 acres, I believe. He said it was enough for a herd. Not the herds, they'd been,
Right,
they had a dairy
1,000
farm.
acres is a huge amount of land. Yeah.
Well, not if you have dairy, like cattle. That's why there's big spreads around here.
Yeah.
Not if you're trying not to cut bales and feed them in a barn. If you're just want them to graze, you got a lot of land. You got to have a lot of land.
Yeah.
He said we lost that land. We couldn't have the herds we had. So he said he had a size herd he could manage on his own, and he went to the priest and told him, "I'm going to need some help with my sisters," and they went in an orphanage, and he had to pay gifts, send them money.
Uh-huh.
But then he was so glad when they got out, when they were teenagers, like juniors in high school, came back and lived at the farm with him. And he was so thrilled when Anne and
Wow.
and
Rose
Rose
got married.
met
Yeah.
men young and married. And Charlie was a very good husband except for the hard drinking.
Uh-huh.
Charlie spent every weekend in that room behind those glass doors. He'd come home from work. Rose told me this when I went back.
Their house glass doors.
He'd
right?
come and give her his pay envelope.
Yeah.
She'd hand him a 10 to go have his drinks. She said one day, she explained to me, because I was there on a Saturday, and she was like, "Oh, very quiet. Is he sick?" She says, "Oh, no, Gary, go outside." She said, "Charlie's a wonderful man, a fine man, but he needs to drink hard every Friday night on payday. And then he's miserable if he has to be around all of us."
Too bad he didn't have some good reefers.
You think about it,
Some
you know?
alternative, but
That-
he didn't beat his wife or children.
Yeah,
That's a
And he always
blessing.
brought his pay home,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
and he didn't come
But
home
it's
drunk and
drinking it up.
disruptive. He'd be like, "Rose."
I'm gonna lock my. Oh, those Irish.
Now,
men.
did you ever jam in New Orleans much? You lived in New Orleans a little bit? or-
I was invited. Now, see, that's another place. I was
Yeah.
invited by the owner to play on Bourbon Street. I
Okay.
met him on the boat coming over in
Nantucket boat?
12. It was when I was 2012. Yeah, coming over on the boat. He had been there visiting, and I was playing for people. And he comes up to me, and goes, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm headed out. After I see some friends running down the coast, I'm gonna head across west." He goes, "I got a club in New Orleans." He gives me the address on Bourbon Street. I want to. And he was such a nice guy, and he loved my playing. But because there's a certain group of people that loves originals. They're not really looking for incredible voice and guitar work. They love hearing the real songs that somebody wrote that they know. I
So
could
you
not for the life of me get within 2 miles of Bourbon Street.
really?
I hung around there for 3 days,
Yeah.
and I got to be there for the whole King's.
Uh,
You know, they call Jesus the King there, which I love.
Oh
And
really?
all the king cakes.
Oh, I like.
Oh.
Oh, that's about
Mardi
Jesus, huh?
Yeah,
King
oh,
cake
the
is Jesus
king.
cake.
I talked
Okay.
about Elvis.
Let's see, so I'm thinking of
King
another
cakes
good.
with the little Jesus hid inside it.
Man, that king cake is good. We were eating one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love king cake.
Scooby brought one to Nashville because he was in New Orleans. He showed up
yeah,
in
no
Nashville.
kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
You guys keep talking, I'm thinking of I
All
want
right.
to get a special song. See, Griff's heard about
We all,
20 or
you know,
30 of
one of my
songs.
favorites is Nature Boy. I don't know if that counts
Oh.
guitar though. That's a
Oh
good
yeah,
one.
I do that a cappella because
All
it
right.
requires so
That's a
much,
good
so
one.
many sharps and flats. Well, I'll sing it for you if you want.
But you know, I like the guitar too. No, let's go guitar.
Yeah,
for
okay. Because I'm trying to think of. I got a lot of originals Griff never heard, and I know George has heard. I got to think of a couple of them. Oh, I'm going to do this one. Griff may have heard it, but I love it, and George, I don't think has heard it.
You guys running away here.
Yeah, somebody about to score. Well, I've been walking. It's the playground for the elite. Stand in the midst of the rolling sagebrush, west of Laramie. Disappearing fast, probably won't last. It's the playground for the elite. La da la la, la da la la. Why do we make up to break up? It's all we do. First you love me, then you snub at me. What am I supposed to do? Why do we destroy what we love? I've asked all the stars above. Why do we make up? Why do we make up? Only to break up our earth. I've been walking and driving a disappearing landscape.
What? Make up the breakup. Classic
Yeah.
couplet.
See, it's because of sampling and hip hop. I've allowed myself the pleasure of sampling some of the songs I love, rhythm and blues.
Sampling.
Yeah,
That's right. Remixing, covering, sampling.
I'm like, and you see the little thing I say on stage when I play this song is, look, I open up with why do we make up to break up? Because I say, look, I've been here a while now, and we all discovered quite a long time ago that certain activities are destroying Mother Earth. We all figured that out a long time ago and put things in place to prevent that. We all discovered we wanted to eat natural and grow our own food. But then we made up and then we broke up. We made up with Mother Earth. We made to understand she was a living creature like us. And we couldn't live without her. But then we broke that connection and started living as if we could. So my thing is, why do we destroy what we love? You know? Because I mean, that's what I watched for years on Nantucket Griff. people with millions and millions of dollars that could have, all they needed to do was camp on their land. Set up a beautiful yurt and clean it up and go when they left. They had everything, houses all over the world. Why did they need, do you know how many landscapes I watched? Them coming with bulldozers, because Billy would bring me around and he's going to rip out our Rosa rugosa, our elderberry, all our wild plants, our little scrub oaks, all ripped out by the bulldozer, and then you see all this dirt smooth, and then they run in all the plants and the landscaping from the mainland, you know, that is not native, that wasn't beautiful and didn't, and I was like, and I was at meetings where people were being told, no matter how many lawyers and how much money you offer us, we can't let you build there, because your septic is gonna be over these people's water. Well, we'll buy them bottled water for the rest of their life. And if you wanna, get along with me, because you might not wanna have to deal with me and go into court for years, just give me what I want, and the lawyers can happen.
Right.
And I've been there, and I've watched a couple of people fold, they're like, you're right. It's crazy, it's just crazy, but I believe the craziness is gonna end. But anyway, when I was doing that song, I thought of another one.
Well, that's the thing about development, sometimes people with rich pockets just keep those lawyers appealing.
Yeah,
So
you
like
just
what
wear them
they-
out with lawfare. I mean, there's a reason they're calling it lawfare, Oh yeah, I know.
What's lawfare? Warfare with law?
Lawfare is where you fight with. Well, that was what I was told when the judge in my divorce said you cannot have sole legal. I wanted sole legal and physical custody. I just wanted the whole thing in my ballpark till Jake was through his teenage years. So the judge was like, you can't have that unless you get some therapy to understand why you stayed so long with this man. You people were fighting like cats and dogs. It was very unfair to Jacob. I got a session alone with the judge with him, He asked him what he wanted. He wanted to come with me and go see his dad. I was like, I'm good to go. But he said I had to have therapy. I couldn't find, every therapist was like, you're in such great shape, I wish you could meet my patients. And I was like, clearly I'm not. But their recommendation to me was, you need a good lawyer. It'll be so cathartic.
Yeah.
When you fight this in court, I was like,
Ron Kuby.
are you guys all suggesting
Ron
this to
Kuby,
people?
Chris lawyer.
Ron Kuby.
Yeah.
Right, I mean,
Ron Kuby.
You ever go to Key West much?
oh, I love Key West.
Key West, yeah. That's a cool place.
You been there, Griff?
No. No.
I've never made that trip either, no.
Let's see.
Well, I've got to go soon. I think it's getting swallowed up. I think the water's coming.
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, I got a good one for you. Here's one I love. All right.
Okay, where do you want your coffee? Over there?
Yeah, George, could you
All
put
right.
it
This is a coffee house jam session.
The coffee house. Coffee house at Hunter's Inn.
down? Okay, first I'm going to sing it in English for you, and then I'll sing it in Spanish, all right? He's gone. My life is simple now, and often quiet. And even though the city is under a hurricane, watch 2, 3. Happy to be in my sanctuary in Miami, Miami. 'Cause I can't change his life for him, and he can't change my life for me. And we're finally admitting we both long to be free. Of the chain that he had on me. We had on we. That's the real meaning of the song. People allowing each other to have their own life and learning to live together and have fun and celebrate.
Yeah, and knowing that it's not going to be perfect, and accepting that there's going to be rough spots, and yeah, all that. But Kerry, you're apologizing about your guitar work, and
I'm so sorry.
Griff and I don't even know which part of the neck to hold, you know, and so
Oh yeah, no,
we're
no,
not
no.
noticing about it.
But I want. This is a very beautiful song.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do because the Spanish is so beautiful. I'm gonna just sing it. Él se fue. Yo no puedo negar eso. Mi vida es sencillo y amunda callada. Sin embargo, el ciudad es bajo un huracán va a llegar. Estas las tres. Yo soy feliz a mi santuario, a mí.
Uh-huh.
A mí.
Yeah.
See, I love it the way them Spanish say. You say Miami, they don't go Miami.
Miami. Oh yeah, the hurricane.
Miami.
Miami.
See, why I play the guitar is to access support for me. Notice how I sing differently. I mean, if I really I could sing you in my breathing would be good. I could do the nature chord for you. But I would stand up, pump myself full of air, and get very formal.
Mm-hmm.
But just sitting here, relaxed.
Yeah.
The guitar sustains me while I take a breath.
Right.
You see?
Yeah.
And it provides, I mean, I'm a singer.
Right.
I'm not a musician. Musicians are quite different than me. In other words, I adapted myself to an instrument. So I could have it as a tool, right?
Yeah.
But
You
some of the
kinda do it
kids I've taught,
Yeah.
you should see that, because they're born
Right.
gifted musicians. I'm a born singer.
Gotcha.
It's
You got to duetting with the guitar.
Yeah, and there are certain songs, like I'm trying to think of one that I just know backwards and forwards, because I want to roll through one.
You know any Jimmy? You know any Dylan?
I'm going to do Joey's favorite
Yeah.
Dylan song. And do you mind if I do one? Because I'm going to dedicate one to each of you guys before the night's over. But this is to Joey, okay, guys?
Yeah.
We all, and I know my brother George loved our brother Joey, but he was a rough character. Ain't it just like the night when you're trying to be so quiet? We sit here helplessly, doing our best just to deny. And Louise holds a handful of rain, asking you to defy. Lights flicker from the opposite loft. In this room, the heat pipes just cough. Country music station plays soft, but there's nothing, just Louise and her lover so entwined. And these visions of Johanna that have conquered my mind. It was for Johanna. Joey wanted me.
Johanna, yeah, I don't know that song.
Oh, you never heard
What's
it?
it called?
It's called
Louise
Visions
or-
of Johanna.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Oh,
I'm
you
going to
know
play
that
you a
song,
couple
Chris?
of more Dylan songs.
Famous Dylan song.
I
Yeah.
love,
Dylan got that name out there.
okay, I'm going to
You know,
play you an obscure
Dylan got a lot of
one.
ladies' names out there with songs.
Oh.
The song I like, Black Diamond Bay. You never hear it.
No, I'll have to learn
That's
that.
a hot one though.
I'll make a point of that I love that takes crowds by surprise when I say this is a Dylan song. And it's called I'll Keep It With Mine. Everybody's like, what? So have you heard that? I'll Keep It With Mine.
No,
Yeah.
sure.
No.
Do you want to hear it? My favorite
Oh,
one is North Country.
Uh-huh.
If you're traveling in the North Country.
yeah.
And I've done a great arrangement of that, but I'm going to play it. Love it. Let me have that before.
Yeah.
George, you put the ice cream in it.
No, I didn't,
Oh, excellent.
but you
George,
could if you want to.
cookie ice cream.